Hello, welcome to a new episode of Building Her. Today I'm going to talk about how to become magnetic and confident. I think this is something that we all struggle with, and I think it is obviously normal to have doubts. I think it is normal to have insecurities, especially in your teenage years, in your 20s, and even like when you're older. Like every level, every age comes with new insecurities, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think the goal should be to become, somebody who has built a wall and has no insecurities at all, because having insecurities makes us not only human but also vulnerable in a beautiful way when we are ready to own those insecurities and vulnerabilities, because nobody is perfect. And I want to first address something that I see a lot, that I've been noticing a lot on social media, and that is women who talk about becoming a high value woman. And I have a problem with that term because it is often used in a way of becoming a high value woman to attract a high value man. And I understand the concept. I understand why you would want to attract somebody who is emotionally mature, who is maybe a leader, who is confident, who has things going for himself. I think that is very, very important. But what I do have a problem with is that when these women talk about becoming a high value woman, they often talk about talking more softly because a man likes it, becoming more educated because then you have more things to talk about with a man. I can go on. Having hobbies so that you actually spend your time not being available for that man. And I think that is not a way to live. And I think in a world where we should be decentering men a little bit more, I think this is the wrong message, especially for young girls. And I do understand it. I do understand where women are coming from, but I think we are approaching it the wrong way. And I think becoming the woman of your dreams, your higher self, I think there's nothing wrong with it, but I think we have to approach it in a way where we're actually filling our lives up with beautiful things and actually doing things for us and not for other people. It doesn't really matter if it's for a man or a high value man or whatever. I think we shouldn't live for other people. We shouldn't live for other people's approval. We shouldn't live for other people's opinions. We should live for ourselves. And I think that is a very, very difficult task because we do sometimes live for other people. We see ourselves through the lens of others, and I wish that wasn't true, but that is why I think I really want to talk about how to become magnetic and confident for yourself. I'm going to share a few tips with things that have really helped me in this process of becoming more magnetic and confident. True confidence comes from within. It is not coming from performance. And I think that is why we put a lot of effort into looking good, because we want to be valued, because we want to be seen as confident. But true confidence doesn't really care about others. When it comes to true confidence, we shouldn't really be focused on other people, like I said before. True confidence and magnetism comes from within, and it is really about a process of building self-trust, discipline, self-love, self-care, and those things don't happen overnight. We have to give ourselves grace and time and space to actually build these things. And to build those things, you have to get to know yourself. You have to go deep with yourself. You have to build a relationship and become your own best friend. If you don't do this, it is not going to work. Your confidence is not going to radiate. People are not going to buy it. People can smell it from miles away when somebody is radiating true confidence or not. There are a few things you can do to really build a relationship with yourself, and I am going to share what has really helped me to build a relationship with myself and what I still do to build a relationship with myself. But something, and I talk about this often, something that really helped me was to travel by myself, because traveling by yourself just, first of all, is like one of the best experiences you can give yourself, because you're not dependent on another person. You can make your own decisions, you can do whatever you like, you can eat whatever you like, and you also, in that way, connect with your body. When you're constantly with other people, you're kind of in tune with what they want. You start to ask them, oh, what do you want to eat? When do you want to eat? And you don't really listen to your own body. But when you are by yourself all the time, you can start to ask yourself those questions. Oh, what do I actually want to eat? What do I want to do? Do I want to sleep? Do I want to sleep in? Do I want to go for a walk? Do I want to... So, in that sense, you get to really connect with your body and get to know your body. And also, you start to listen to your body more, because now you are dependent on yourself. Another thing that really helped me is to really just accept the things that I like naturally. I don't know if you can relate, but ever since I was a young child, I always felt a little bit odd. I always felt that I was able to connect with animals and people in a different way. And I always had friends, and I always had animal friends around me. But I think I always felt that I was a little bit more sensitive to things and environments, and it was hard for me to understand when I was little. So I always had these big questions, and I think sometimes that made me a little bit insecure, especially when I became a teenager and I was in class with all these girls that were physically already a little bit further than I was. I always had my own style when it came to like clothes, when it came to music, and I remember one day one of the older girls, she got her hands on my MP3 and she started listening to my music, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed because I have like such weird songs on there. I listened to songs that nobody was listening to, and she was like, oh my god, you have like the coolest playlist. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, maybe the things that I do like aren't weird. It is so strange to think about it, because that conversation had such a great impact on me. Now, when I think about it, she really gave me permission to just like what I like. And yeah, that was such a big thing for me at the time, to really start liking the things that I like. And I was really young, but that conversation went really far, because I still think about it sometimes, and it really reminds me every time that you really have to just like the things that you like, because if you don't, if you start pretending, your magnetism will fade, your authenticity isn't there, and people can't find you. And I think when we talk about magnetism, when we talk about authenticity, it is so important to really listen to yourself and radiate, your own energy, because if you don't, you kind of put a wall around you, and the people that are meant to find you cannot find you. So it is so, so important for true and real connections as well. So yeah, traveling, liking the things that I really like, owning them, accepting myself, those were really important things for my self-confidence. So now on to something that might be a little bit harder for some people, setting boundaries and having high standards. And yeah, where do we start? Where do we start with setting boundaries? I think we can really feel where we sometimes drain energy or where we're lacking energy. And those are kind of like the signs of where we should be setting boundaries or where we should be having higher standards. So, for example, if your romantic relationships or your friendships even are always draining you and you feel like a watered down version of yourself, this is a really good time to start looking at your relationships and to really see if they still align with how you see yourself in your 20s or even in your 30s. Realize that some friendships just need a pause, or that you just need to step away a little bit so that you can actually look from a distance and feel how these relationships are affecting you. And maybe if there's things that need to change, you can always have a conversation about them. But sometimes we just have to step away for a second. And I understand that sometimes this can be difficult, especially if you're seeing someone every day or if you are in a very committed relationship with someone. But I think that if you cannot talk about these things with people and they don't really understand where you're coming from or don't respect your choices, this is already a sign that maybe they're not as emotionally mature as you and just don't see the things like you. And that is also okay. But that is a big sign or indicator that, yeah, maybe you are not on the same path anymore. So, setting clear boundaries and having high standards is, for me, a way to honor my future self or higher self. Sometimes future self can sound like you're not already there, but I think it is always about embodying the person or the version of yourself that you want to be. So sometimes higher self is a better term for this. But looking at what your higher self would want for you, and those boundaries and those standards can really be for anything. It can be for your eating habits, it can be for how you spend your time by yourself. If you need time in the evening to really reset and to recharge, then you shouldn't spend time with people that take away from the time. And you can really set your boundaries, and this is your life. You should be able to make your own rules. In the beginning, maybe it is really difficult, as most things are in the beginning, but the more you do for yourself, the more natural it becomes. Because for me, in the beginning, it was really difficult to like have a no rush Monday, but now it's just like a standard. Even the people that are close to me in my life, they ask me, "Oh, how is your no rush Monday going?" So sometimes we have to get used to something, but once we are used to it, it becomes such a natural part of our lives and our systems and our routines. So the more you do for yourself, the more natural it becomes. So another thing that I want to talk about shortly, because I don't really talk about food much because I think it can be a little bit of a trigger, but I just want to remind you that you should be eating as a goddess. When it comes to food, I think we shouldn't put too many rules on ourselves unless they come from a place of love. And as someone who has struggled in the past with an eating disorder, and sometimes still struggles with food, I think it is very important to always come from a place of love. And sometimes that means putting some rules and restrictions in order because you love yourself. And this is something that might sound counterintuitive. But for example, sometimes I can overeat because I feel emotional and I feel awful after. While the most loving thing for me to do is to find a different way of coping with things and still eating healthy, still eating something that helps me to regulate. But that can be a bowl of fruit, that can be my favorite smoothie, that can be, I don't know, like an avocado toast, or it can be something that nourishes me instead of eating a bag of candy or eating a bowl of ice cream that doesn't really make me feel good. And when I do eat those things, I should be eating them because I am in a good mood, because I am loving life. I'm loving myself. I'm not restricting. I'm not binging. I am just having an ice cream with my boyfriend, for example. So know the habits you have when it comes to food so you can actually start to eat like a goddess. Another thing that has increased my self-confidence and magnetism is having hobbies, like having passions in life. As you know, astrology is a big hobby, is a big passion. It's part of my career. I mean, it's a huge part of my career actually. But I also have other, hobbies. I actually love to sing, and I love to paint, I love to draw, I love to write, and I think it is very important to have these hobbies. I also love to cook, I love to try new things. So if you don't have, like, if you can't name 5 hobbies or passions, it is really your sign to start looking for them and start to really search for the things that make you happy. It can be anything. Maybe for you, it's swimming, it's something active. Maybe it is drawing, maybe it is creating content or film or photography. It can be anything, but I think we have to have passions in life because this is our lives. We should be enjoying it a lot. So if you watched till this point, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe and leave a comment so that I know that you've watched it. I just love seeing who's watching, and it means so much. And I already have like so many videos lined up, so please subscribe so you don't miss them. So the last thing that I want to talk about before ending the podcast is investing in yourself. It doesn't mean spending a lot of money on yourself. It means investing in yourself with time, with energy, with love, with attention. And this is just part of the journey, because when we don't want to invest time in ourselves, when we don't want to put any effort in, we are just going to live in kind of like this loop of no self-improvement, no changes, no life changes. And if you don't invest time in yourself, getting to know yourself, getting to know your passions, just living for others, it's going to be such a waste of your time, and you're going to really, 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 really regret it. So investing time and energy in yourself means having, for me personally, it means having morning routines, having evening routines, slowing down. I think slowing down is one of the most important skills I mastered. Slowing down, relaxing. I was always a woman with a mission. I still am. But I actually really appreciate that I can slow down and that I can relax, because that is just not a way to live. If you're never relaxed, if you're always doing things, thinking about things, brainstorming about the next move, you're not relaxed, and your nervous system will eventually tell you, and your body will tell you, because the body keeps the score. And that is such a waste of your years if you have to start fixing it. Believe me, I've been there. I had to fix a lot of my problems that manifested physically, and it's not fun. The sooner you start investing in yourself, the better you'll feel, and you will probably never have to deal with those consequences of not relaxing. And I know that sounds silly, but it is really true. So I just want to help you and see you grow and see you support your own system. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you're watching, please like this video so that I know that it is appreciated. And let me know by sending me a DM on Instagram. I love, seeing who's listening, seeing who's watching. Thank you so much. And I would love to have your thoughts on being a high value woman. And see you in the next episode.